And good morning, everybody. I feel so pleased to be with you for this afternoon's Wellbeing Workshop. It's the third time that I've presented at the NUPC, although this is the first time that it's been a virtual occasion. However, I am completely committed to ensuring that we have an equally brilliant and useful session together. I'm quite flattered that you've chosen to attend this session over future-proofing T's and C's, so that's a real compliment. And a very warm welcome to today's session. We're going to be exploring how we can best maintain good well-being. So that is a healthy state of body and mind whilst agile working. And that might have become a bit of a buzzword just lately. So we're really going to dig into what agile means and of course what it means to you. So you've chosen to invest your time into today's session. And I really want to emphasize that this is about you, really making a statement and saying you want to feel better. You maybe want to support colleagues in feeling better about approaching agile. And this is actually saying that you respect your well-being. This is something that's important to you. This is saying I'm giving it the time and the value that I deserve to. That is something that I really honor and respect. So I want to say, this is your session. This is not just about sitting and listening, but it's about reflecting on the past 15 months possibly and reframing how you want your well-being to be shaped. And of course, we'll be engaging in lots of conversation around that. So for anybody that doesn't know me, my name's Zainah. As Dave mentioned, I'm a psychotherapist, which basically means I do a lot of work around feelings and thoughts and how we can help to change those and feel better using different behaviors. So I will share my screen in just a moment, but before I do that, I really want to encourage you to ask the questions. We can save questions till the end, but please do trust yourselves to share a little bit of your experience if you want to, whilst we have this opportunity together. You're welcome to use the chat function that we have here on Zoom if you want to share your thoughts via that, if that feels more comfortable. Of course, you do run the risk that I might pick on you if you seem a little bit too reserved today. So shall we get started? All right, guys, I'm just going to attempt to share my screen with you here. So in a moment, you should see the PowerPoint slide.
Oh, Jesus.
Bless you, whoever that was.
Excuse me.
That's okay. Might be a bit of hay fever going around. I've certainly had some of that. All right, guys, so agile working, body and mind. I'm just going to quickly run through what we're going to cover in today's session. We've got 45 minutes. I imagine it's going to go very quickly. So here's what we're hoping to address during that time. What is it that agile working offers? So what is it that your personal hopes are with agile working, and any apprehensions that you might have as well, any fears around agile working? So that's quite a personal question, but please do be mindful of those things during the session. To develop understanding of personal mental health needs whilst being agile. So what are our mental health needs? Do we recognize them? And how can we make sure that we're meeting those? We want to be able to explore and practice some exercises that create focus and diffuse stress when you're in a new reality. We're hearing a lot about new realities and next realities. So what is it that your stressors might be triggered by just now? We want to be able to challenge overthinking and also overwhelm when there might be some uncertainty over what might happen next. So we really want to start to feel as though we can control overwhelm and overthinking. And to build trust of self, that's a really important concept, to feel in control of your feelings in different working environments. Our feelings are signs and they can tell us all sorts of different things. So how can we stay in control of those and really listen to what our feelings might be telling us? Does that feel okay? Hopefully that paints a bit of a picture of what we're going to be looking into. However, I want to know what has brought you to this session today. So I can see the chat here, and please feel free. I'd really love to know what it is that's drawn you to this session. And we'll just keep an eye on that as I progress on to the next slide. All right, guys, so agile working. We've mentioned that it might be a bit of a buzzword at the moment. There's lots that it involves. We can look at a definition of agile working, but if we start to break that down, it's lots and lots of different components that result in agile working. Agile working is really about bringing people, processes, technology, and time together. It's about being able to be adaptable in different places. It's about finding appropriate and effective ways of working, but we have less boundaries whilst we're working. So that means there are less guidelines, which might seem like a positive or maybe a difficult thing to navigate around. And it might be something that also helps us to achieve results in the way that we really want to see them happening. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but what we're really saying is agile working presents lots of opportunity beyond flexible working. And also it means that we have less barriers in the way when we're trying to achieve certain things in our role. So we're talking about better balance. I want to focus on these last two terms that we've got on this slide here. Self-awareness. Agile working presents a perfect platform for us to become more self-aware. That's us getting to know ourselves, what we enjoy, where we want to develop, how we want to meet our goals, what is it that we really want to improve on. And that's 50% of us being successful in whatever we do, is that understanding of ourselves. And the other 50%, you might have guessed, is about self-responsibility. And that might feel a little bit of a difficult thing to hear. Sometimes we hear about responsibility and we think that's pressure. That might be stress-inducing. There might be an expectation of us when we're thinking about responsibility, but actually this is about us feeling empowered by taking ownership in who we are and what we do and making good choices in the way that we decide to do things. Self-awareness, self-responsibility. All right, guys. So when I think about Agile, the first thing that I think about is really about change. Adaptability we had on the previous slide there, and there's lots of change that is involved in being Agile. There might be lots that's unfamiliar to us. There might be lots of getting to know new things. And I think the past 15 months has proven that actually we've gotten to know different ways of working and different ways of living quite a bit. And that can feel scary. It can make us feel a little bit anxious, possibly. Is anyone starting to feel a little bit anxious about Agile working? Give me an honest thumbs up if you're feeling a little bit anxious about it. And that is absolutely fine. We might feel anxiousness about being in the office one day, perhaps even just returning to the office might feel a little bit anxiety inducing. It might be anxiousness about seeing people again. It could be certain colleagues that we're a little bit unsure on how we might engage with them. We might feel anxious about switching from working in the office to then being at home the next day. We've gotten used to both of those things, but what about when they're happening together or day to day? We might be getting used to things that we used to do, but that we haven't done in a long time. The daily commute, what does that feel like? What's that going to be like when we start moving back into our offices? It might be getting dressed for work in the morning. It's been the most amazing time, hasn't it? To sit around in our baggy tops and fat pants, if I can use that term. But actually, what is it going to be like to start doing the ironing before work the next day? These are all things that we're going to have to reintroduce possibly into our schedule. So changing, switching, not knowing can feel scary because as human beings, the brain doesn't really like it. It doesn't like change. We'd rather not have it. We'd much rather have comfort. And the truth is the brain absolutely loves comfort. So being in our comfy clothes, working from home, we might have adapted to that quite quickly, and that kind of feels quite good. But not knowing what's going to happen next. So things like, I'm just going to move this chat box so I can see these slides here. It feels safe when we know what's going to happen next. Think about those feelings that you get when you cozy up onto the sofa in the evening, when you pour yourself a glass of wine, when you sit down to relax with a warm drink, when you might be binge watching those TV shows that you really enjoy, and you don't have to do anything else. That feeling that we might get when we're getting into bed at night, and of course, things like biting into a sugary treat, that feels like comfort. That feels good. Of course it does. So we're looking here at what we call the ape brain. And this is a very old part of the brain. And its function is to help us to survive. All it wants to do is survive. It doesn't want to strive or push or get to know anything new. All it really wants to do is to stay alive through perceiving any threats that might be around. Those threats might be things like a new IT system, a new way of walking or moving around the offices where we go back to them with social distancing, of course. It might be that we've got a new manager. It could be that there's new rules in procurement that we have to get used to. So the ape brain doesn't like those kinds of things because it means we're going to have to adapt. It's going to have to use energy to do that. And that is the third letter in ape. If the ape brain had a phrase, it would be, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's just stick to what we know. It doesn't want us to set goals. It wants us to preserve energy. It wants us to not adapt, to not get used to new things. It likes what is familiar, so that if, of course, a threat did present itself, we would, of course, need our energy reserves to be able to deal with that. So if you're worried about change, and if you're worried about Agile, remember where that message of fear, that's what it is. It's a message of fear that's coming from the oldest part of our brain. So let's ask a question then. Is that who we think we are as human beings? Is that what we want for ourselves as a developed human being? Are we content with living a life where we're just using as little energy as possible just to survive? What do we think about that? If I listened to my ape brain, I'd still be working in home bargains at £3.61 an hour. That was my first job, age 16. I'd still be living in Birmingham, God forbid, and I would still be with that absolute horror of an ex-boyfriend that I had in 2003. So lots of change that's been presented and lots of change that we can embrace. And again, Agile is about moving beyond this ape brain that doesn't want us to change and to really see how we can grow. So there is a desire to improve. Brilliant, Marion. It's a great place, and I'm not knocking it. I'm in the Lake District at the moment, so there's a lot more greenery here. But yeah, Birmingham's great. No worries. So set ourselves healthy challenges. There's a willingness to do that as human beings. We want to strive for more. We want to strive for better. We want to push ourselves and, of course, progress further in our lives. And Agile working offers us the perfect platform to do that. And that awareness that we might have experienced there is telling us that this is where we might actually use what we call the hack brain, prefrontal cortex. This is the new part of the brain. It's the more advanced bit. So we're away from the ape brain now, and we're thinking about the logical brain, the bit that helps us to make sense of things, to get into new environments, to look at an opportunity as being new, but being able to accept that that might be a good thing. It's the part of the brain that helps us to be flexible, to be creative, to be able to analyze a situation, and also to make decisions in our lives. We choose to see Agile in a certain way, and we can see that we can be Agile, we can be adaptable. So HACK then stands for Helpful Attention Control. What does that mean? I'm going to put some things up here on the right of the screen that will help us to understand what the hack brain allows us to do. It says we're going to resist the temptation to be comfortable because we want more for ourselves than that. Those 2 glasses of wine felt great, but let's be real now. I've got work in the morning and that's enough for tonight. We might say, oh, those 2 Kit Kats were absolutely divine, but actually lockdown love handles is a real thing. I've got to be sensible. So it's the hack brain that's helping us to make these good decisions for ourselves. It might say that 9 hours sleep that I've had has been just lovely, but actually I better get up now and tackle that to-do list, shopping list, ironing, breakfast, whatever might be on your agenda for the morning. So things like thinking more slowly, really, really important thing. We can slow our thoughts down. And again, that's really important because anxiousness, which is a type of fear, as we've mentioned, speeds our thoughts up. We start thinking really, really fast. And that can be a problem because that can breed into things like overthinking. And we are going to be discussing that a little bit more later. So if these thoughts in HACK are helpful, they help us to set goals and to meet them. They also help us to give our attention to the right things in our lives. For example, the positive sides of situations, investing our skills into something that gets us a good result. And attention here is really important because it's about focus. And the final letter in HACK, of course, is control. What are we controlling? Our attention, of course. We're controlling our attention. There's a phrase that you might have come across in self-development work, which is what we focus on grows. What does that mean? Anybody heard that before? What we focus on grows. What that means is whatever is dominating our thoughts, whatever we're thinking about the most will become the most important thing in our lives. So if we're thinking about what we can't control, if we're worrying about Agile, if we're worrying about the future, we're going to start to feel out of control, out of our depth, overwhelmed. So, and that can be a problem because we're not in the present anymore. We're not with what's real and what's going on. We're fantasizing. Okay, so mini test here. Which part of the brain is the one that is responsible for driving those unhelpful thoughts about Agile working and about change? What do we call it? Let me know in the chat if you can remember that. Fantastic. Brilliant, Olivia and Jean, Marion, lovely, good stuff. So it is the ape brain, and we're trying to get away from that. So what we want to really do is to develop a new habit. We might be a bit worried about Agile, and now we know why. What we really need is a new behavior that comes directly from the HACK brain, the helpful attention control that we are capable of, and that it helps us to snap out of that ape brain fear, that excessive focus on the threat. So shall we try a new behavior? Great stuff. I'm going to introduce you here to what we call the vagus nerve. Yeah, absolutely, Dave. All the stuff, long distance running, focus, attention, stop giving up. That's absolutely right. And we really need to be able to channel focus when we've got a big challenge like that ahead of us. So if we really want to diffuse our stresses, something that we can consider is the vagus nerve that there's an image of here. Now, I know you didn't come here for a science lesson, but I'm just going to briefly explain where this lives. So it's in here in the back of the brain, pituitary gland, and it directly links to our stress circuit, which links to our immune system. But its purpose is to relax the immune system because stress really easily breaks down the immune system. And we might know of some health conditions that can start to emerge if we're feeling stressed a lot of the time. So activating that vagus nerve can help us instantly feel relaxed, but more focused, feeling back in control, feeling as though we've regained that charge in ourselves. So let's have a go at activating it. Now, I don't want any injuries whilst we practice this exercise. So the way that I'm going to do it is to put both hands on the back of my head. If you can do that and that feels comfortable, that is brilliant. But if that feels a bit straining, then please just put your arms out to the side. So just pointing those fingers out, really nice straight line across your arms there, across with your shoulders. And if you feel like that is too straining, then you can, of course, just hug your heart. So both hands across the heart here, but we want to really drop those shoulders because we tend to keep our shoulders high up if we're feeling stressed. So drop the shoulders and just hold your heart with your palms like that. So what we're going to do Close your eyes if that helps you to focus. And I really want you to try and fully embrace this experience, guys. It might feel a bit strange, and that's okay. So just close your eyes if you want to feel more focused. And we're going to take a deep breath in through the nose. So long, slow, deep breath in through the nose for as long as you can. And at the top of that breath, we're going to exhale through the mouth, but really powerfully. So aggressive breath out is how that is going to look. So I really want to see those cheeks puffing out while you do that. So we'll have another couple of goes and really try to embrace this. So in through the nose, nice and slowly. And at the top of the breath, exhale powerfully through the mouth. Brilliant, good stuff. And we'll have another practice together. So in through the nose, nice and slowly. And really let all that air out through the mouth in one aggressive breath out. Fantastic. And just release your arms nice and gently when you're ready. And you might just want to blink a couple of times there if you've closed your eyes, just to readjust to the light. How did that feel? How are your heads feeling after that? Give me some comments on the chat, or you're welcome to share verbally if you want to. That's great, Leanne. That was a good, powerful breath out. If you've blown the papers off your desk, I did blow a couple of papers off here as well. So I'm right there with you. Fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that you've seen the benefit of that. Evangelina, you feel relaxed. That is exactly what this helps us to do. Marianne, brilliant. Olivia, you can do this at any time, guys. It's such a quick exercise to do. Sometimes we're overthinking and we feel as though we're trying to solve all these problems in our heads. But there's so many variables in the things that we're thinking about that actually so much of what we're thinking isn't real. And it feels like to end that overthinking is going to take a lot from us. But actually, if it's only happening in our imagination, a quick exercise to break the thoughts, that's all we need to do. Break that thought circuit can help us to feel really refreshed, and that vagus nerve can be activated very quickly. So thank you so much for your comments there, Ruth. I'm really glad that you found that helpful, and please do keep hold of that in your wellbeing toolkit, because it can be an exercise that's really helpful, and that's one that I personally use quite a lot as well. So good stuff. All right, so that is the vagus nerve. Overthinking. We've mentioned a little bit about it. Again, this only happens in our heads, but we can all be guilty of this. So confession time. What's our experience with it? Who's guilty of it? Give me an honest thumbs up if you're an overthinker. Absolutely. And it's a natural way sometimes. Absolutely. We can all get into this. So give me a yes if you've ever been overthinking about something and it's been helpful. No, often it isn't. And we have got to stop. And you might think, well, agile working, overthinking, what is the link there? But we can get so caught up in thinking about how we're going to do something, what we're going to do. And we never really have a clear idea about that until the situation presents itself. And often we deal with something very differently when it happens in reality to how it happens in our heads. And it really does make things much worse, Laura. I can really empathize with that. So thank you so much for your comments there, guys. Stop overthinking. We're going to learn how to do that. We spend so much time overthinking, over planning, over analyzing. What's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen next week? When will these lockdowns finally come to an end? What government decisions will be made next? What's going to happen 5 years from now? We don't move forward. We go nowhere with our thoughts apart from to a place of fear. And guess what happens? In the meantime, things have changed. We've started to overthink. And not only does that make us feel helpless because we're so conscious of what we can't change or what we might struggle with, that it also breeds self-doubt. That is a really important point with overthinking. It will breed self-doubt. We're not going to gain confidence. We're not going to feel empowered and good about ourselves. We're not going to be able to make helpful decisions when we're overthinking. It creates a spiral of anxiousness. We worry about the future. But as we've said, there are so many variables, things outside of our control, and our mind cannot get certainty over those things because the future is so unpredictable. We feel lost in that process. So we've got to stop overthinking and instead consider where those thoughts are coming from. Absolutely, Tim. A lot of overthinking, things you can't control. And that can become a bit of an obsession because we like feeling in control as human beings. And remember, again, that is the ape brain that wants us to be able to predict. It isn't who we are if we're an evolving, growing, developing human being. Sources of evidence. Where are those thoughts coming from? What have we been watching, hearing? Who have we been talking to? Have we had too much news? Have we had too much social media? Have we been having too many conversations with Joy Sponge? I think we all know a Joy Sponge in our lives. People that might be negative, and they, again, can really draw that positive energy out of us. We've got to get all these thoughts out. That is one way of getting rid of them. Writing the thoughts down, and all that takes is a pad and a pen. Get rid of them, put them onto something tangible, so we feel subconsciously, and this really works, that we're letting go of those thoughts. You can even physically close that book and walk away from the thoughts, so you feel as though you're consciously leaving them behind. You can even screw up the page and throw it in the bin, in the recycling bin, of course. So we can feel as though we've gotten rid of that stuff. It isn't helpful to us. We can even, there's so many techniques. Get your phone, write all those thoughts down out into a blank message or into your notes or whatever, and breathe a sigh of relief as you delete the whole thing, letting go through writing, through typing, through deleting. Does anybody write things down already, or does anybody use that as a way to get rid of thoughts that are unhelpful? Not yet, Lynn, but I can hear an intention in there. So just give it a go, guys, because it can really help. Absolutely, Olivia. It can really, really help. And we don't have to read that stuff back or analyze it or try and find meaning in it. All we're doing is helping ourselves to clear our headspace, to gain clarity. So I've said stop the thoughts, but actually it's really difficult to stop thoughts. So what I'm going to say is replace thoughts. Marion, I'm right there with you. I've got a notebook by the bed. Capture thoughts that you don't need writing and write them down. You don't want to carry them with you. And again, if you're struggling to sleep with people, that's been a big thing during the lockdowns. Writing things down before bed can really help you to get rid of thoughts and sleep with a clear mind. If I say stop thinking about a white polar bear eating an ice cream. Marion, whatever you do, I don't want you to think about what's going on, what you've got in your fridge at the moment. Olivia, do not think, whatever you do, do not think about what day your wheelie bin needs to go out next week. Who else have we got here? Lynn, please stop thinking about the last holiday you had. I know it might have been a while, we might have had a staycation just recently, but please don't think about that last holiday. Tim, stop thinking about what you might be having for lunch later. I know it's coming up quite soon, but please don't think about what's going on, what you're having for lunch. How was that? Are we able to stop thinking about those things? Okay, so you've got Mr. Polar Bear in mind, Marion. No, we can't. It's impossible. The subconscious cannot, it's a thinking machine and it cannot process a negative. All right, it's great weather. And when I was talking about, absolutely, Jennifer, it's the Magnum ice creams that have been my sugary indulgence in the last few days, but we've got the good sunshine to blame for that. So we can't stop thinking. We don't know how to do it. We've got to instead replace those thoughts with something that is helpful, that is soothing, that is accurate. And I'm going to put some examples up here on the right, and we're going to have a practice. These phrases help us to feel in control. They take us out of that fantasy world that we get into when we're thinking and overthinking. And I'm using I am phrases because they are helpful, because they put us into control again by eradicating self-doubt. All those what if this happens, what if that happens, we're breeding self-doubt, and I am statements give us that back. Now, I've chosen the I am statements that are achievable, that are accessible. We don't want to start saying things like, I am amazing, I am superhuman, I am invincible. And that stuff sounds great, but when we're in a place where we feel helpless, or if we feel lots of self-doubt, we might not really believe that stuff. That is amazing to say, those kinds of statements, but we want to choose something that feels safe and accessible. So we're going to have to, we're going to have a practice here. And again, I really want you to try and embrace this with me. So I've got some I am statements here. And I want us to try and say these aloud. This might feel uncomfortable. We find it so easy to speak negatively and harshly and unkindly to ourselves, but I want you to break that overthinking with some self-compassion, because as you might have seen in our Q&A section earlier today, self-compassion is the one thing that I think we could always have more of as human beings, the language, the positive, helpful language we use towards ourselves. And all of these statements that I'm going to put forward on here are true, so we've got to believe them. So I want you to say these out loud. That might feel strange and it might feel unfamiliar, but it takes courage to try. So let's be courageous together. Say them out loud, say them with conviction. I am enough. I am open. I am capable. I am at peace. I am balanced. I am self-aware. You're noticing the unhelpful thoughts. That is self-awareness. Remember, that is 50% of the work. I am focused. I am patient with myself. Empowering, compassionate, soothing. This is self-care. How did it feel to say those? Is this a language that we know? Did it feel difficult? Did it feel okay? Did it feel comfortable? Brilliant. Lynn, it feels strange, but what I will say is keep saying them. And actually being in a room on your own is great, because no one's around to hear them or wonder what you're doing or think you're talking to yourself or whatever. So that might be a good opportunity to practice, but it can feel empowering. Susan, it felt good because these phrases are true and we can see the truth in them. We can hear the truth in them when we're talking about them. Just using them and being courageous enough to try them saves so many things that we've got on this slide here. Easy to say, difficult things. I am enough resonated. That's what we call a core belief sometimes, Marion, and so many of us hold the belief about I am not enough, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not being enough, and that breeds other difficult thoughts, things like I shouldn't ask for help, I've left it too late, I'm going to be wrong, I don't have the right skills, or I can't do it. So use these phrases to empower yourselves, and they do feel easier the more we use them. So I'm really happy to send these slides around. I think the NUPC might be doing that, but be in touch with me if not. All right, guys, I am moving on quite quickly because there's lots that I want to share with you. So the point of this slide is to recognize that, sorry guys, I'm just moving this chat box around here, the difference. We'll recognize the difference in how we see Agile working and change in a way that is healthy, a way that's empowering, so that we stop feeling as though Agile might be something that's happening to us, and we really start to lean towards being part of the change that it offers. And I've put progressing, not perfecting there, because sometimes we have this amazingly high expectation of ourselves and we think, I've got to be great at this. It's brand new, I've never done it before, I'm still getting used to it along with everybody else, but actually I feel like I should be perfect at it. So let's progress with it, because perfection takes time and practice. And actually, if we're compassionate to ourselves, perfection almost feels not as high a goal. So how can we start to embrace this stuff? The first thing that we really want to do is to accept that things are going to change. This might feel like a difficult environment. Just accept it. Accept, and just say that to yourself. I accept. I am accepting. The world has changed. Accept that uncertainty is going to be around for a while. Accept that life is not perfect, and accept that we're not going to have certainty over every single thing that we want. We can accept that what will give us stress is by focusing too much on the things that we cannot change, trying to control all of the stuff that's going on at the moment. The only thing that we can be in control of is ourselves. Second is to be accountable. And accountable for what? Accountable for our thoughts. Monitor them, break out of them, break out of that ape brain. Remember those soothing, compassionate phrases, activating that vagus nerve to let go of any thoughts that feel difficult, unpleasant. Controlling the thoughts, that is where your focus will be. And where are you growing in that focus? So monitoring them, is this helping me to grow? If not, let them go. Responsibility is what comes third, and responsibility about our potential, fulfilling our potential, a responsibility to fulfill your own goals. Keep those in sight. What is it that you want for yourself? Your career, your goals, your relationships, your potential, your priorities. And what are you doing right now? Your health, possibly. What are you doing right now to work towards that stuff, to focus on it, as opposed to what you can't control? Because there is still a huge amount that you can. And finally, we've got here purpose. And purpose is about what purpose can you have in this change, in this agile way of working? Is there a way that you can help yourself, help others, to move forward, to take action, to do something new, to come up with a new idea, a new project? Agile offers us so many opportunities to do that. There are less boundaries, less barriers, things are less stringent. We're learning to be flexible, self-awareness. Once you start doing these things, I absolutely guarantee you will feel less stressed about the uncertainty and the unpredictability, the chaos that might be going on in the way that you see Agile. So bringing this right back to yourself, focusing on how you can stay in control of you. What is it that you need to move forward? Accept things are going to change. Be accountable for your thoughts. Be responsible for your potential, your goals, and establish a sense of purpose in everything that you're doing. Experiences of extreme value. Our immune system is where we develop resilience. That can change over a period of time. There are people out there that are really good at adapting and adjusting and being able to change and accept change without a problem. And there are some people, like me, who develop and build their immune system over time and with experience. And there are some people that I meet who are actually really frightened of the word agile, frightened of change. And because agile is powerful, but it can be really scary. I want you to think of a moment in your life when something so impactful has changed the direction of your journey, where you are today, something that's contributed to it in some form. And when it happened, what you're thinking about right now, the way that you responded to the situation that you were in, that was the point of origin of you being agile. You realized something was needed. You adapted, you navigated around it. That is an experience of extreme value, and it is a change that has resulted in your growth. So it's part of who you are. We don't lose those experiences. And that tells you that you can handle agile. Remember your attitude, remember your outlook, remember your action when you reacted. You know then that you can handle agile, because being strong enough to handle agile means not only being able to adapt and adjust, but also being able to ask for help. You're not on your own in being agile. There are lots of other people that will be trying to embrace this along with you. So it's about asking for help, but also accepting help and seeking and finding strength in other people when you connect and collaborate with them. Connection, collaboration, and communication are absolutely key to working in an agile way. So you have the experience of acceptance, never compare to yesterday. You're on a journey here, and this is about managing and discovering a new you and feeling excited as you do that. There's so much that we don't know about ourselves that we can discover, and that is exciting. Recording and rewarding. I know we're coming to time, guys. We've got a few minutes to go, and we will be wrapping up in just a second. Whilst we're developing with Agile, we don't just want to use this as an opportunity or see this as an opportunity and then end the working day and let it go. Because this is about our personal growth, our self-awareness and our self-responsibility. There's going to be a lot less rules with Agile. So there's a lot more responsibility, but that also means that that's freeing, it's liberating. A clear statement that we make at the end of the day that recognizes all the energy that you've invested into being agile, all the effort that you've put in. And in giving and investing, you're helping yourself with your goals. I'm going to say that again. Keep your goals in your vision and note how you're moving towards them. Again, this might be something that you want to record in a specific place as an ongoing recognition. We work because we have goals. There's going to be lots of personal goals that we can accomplish through being agile. We want to be more confident. We want to be able to adapt. We want to be able to be more flexible. We want to be able to communicate with different people on different levels. Personal goals. We want to be able to manage our own time better. And every day at work is bringing you closer through agile working to achieving those goals. And this is really about giving that work meaning and purpose again. This is a 50-50. This is not about working in agile because the business wants us to. It's working in agile because we can also gain lots from learning to be agile. It's a life skill. So let's capture that. At the end of the day, consciously disengaging safely by recognizing what you've achieved. Did you have a really good meeting with somebody? Did you engage really well with some colleagues that you're working with? Did you get through a really difficult task when you felt unsure about it? Did you practice some self-care exercises during that day? Did you make an effort to help X number of people during the working day? Turn these achievements into statements and embrace them and tell yourself that today was worth it. You've gotten closer to your goals because you feel proud of yourself, you feel successful. And that can really help you to feel as though you're moving forward with agile than being lost in the chaos of what we feel agile can sometimes be. All right, guys, so this man appearing here does tell us that we are reaching the end of the session. And we've covered a lot of ground in the past 45 minutes. So I just want to give us a little summary here to capture the main points of what we've discussed. We want to achieve a clear sense of well-being and to be able to maintain healthy body and mind. We've looked at the unhelpful makeup of that ape brain, and what we've also said is that it creates a lot of fear around opportunities for change, and agile is one of those. So what we want to do is to create our control in focus by connecting with the HAG, helpful attention control, and giving our awareness to what we can control. That is what we focus on grows. We can control our breathing through diffusing stress and activating that vagus nerve, anything that might be corroding our energy, disrupting the balance. We want to be able to stop our overthinking and replace the overthinking with thoughts that might be helping us rather than hindering us, writing them down, using soothing phrases, monitoring the language that we're using towards ourselves to feel helpful rather than helpful and get rid of that self-doubt. We visited the 4 forces of change to help us progress with Agile, not perfect it. Take that expectation off yourself by being accountable, by accepting, being accountable, being responsible, and being able to have a sense of purpose in the things that we do. We reflected on our experiences of extreme value to recognize that we've already adapted well to change in our life, and that can help us to feel confident in new opportunities that might be presented. And we explored the importance of consciously giving ourselves good energy actively by recognizing what we've achieved, how it fits into our goals, and rewarding ourselves for everything that we've been putting in. That does bring us to the end of our session. I'm just over by a minute, so I'm going to stop this slide share here, which means we can see each other again. And that does bring us to the end of this session. So I'm really happy to take any questions if anybody wants to ask any questions. Thanks, Mark. That's great. Thanks, Lynn. So if you need to rush off, then I really hope that this has been helpful. Stay in touch. Do not struggle in silence. Communicate, collaborate. Put your needs first and take them seriously, because your mental health is important and so are you. It's in your hands, so make it matter. Thank you for your time, your contribution and your engagement. Look after you. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed, Zainah.